interwoven in the destinies of that young woman glimpsed in the park by the historian. It was essential for her future that the other institutions should continue to support her. It was essential for all of them that she should maintain the status quo, that she should not fail. Victoria's grandfather, King George III, a monarch who was politically active and who had played a pivotal role in the shaping of British political history, was blind for the last 10 years of his life, and at sporadic intervals in the last 20 years of his long reign, 1760 to 1820, he had been raving mad. The fear that the royal madness was hereditary was ever present in the British governing class, and the young Queen's ministers watched every one of her tantrums, each emotional display, every instance of irrational behaviour, with anxiety. George III's son, who ruled as regent during the times of blindness and madness, had been extremely unpopular, not least because of the sordid and cruel way in which he had divorced his queen, Caroline of Brunswick. By the time he was succeeded by his brother, the Duke of Clarence, William IV, in 1830, it had looked very much as if the supply of possible heirs to the throne had all but dwindled. It was mere luck that William had not, in turn, been succeeded by his extremely unpopular brother Ernest, Duke of Cumberland, a scar-faced brute who was widely believed to have murdered his valet and married a woman who had killed her previous 2 husbands, and whose extreme Toryism made him hated by the masses. Had the young Victoria not existed, Ernest would have been the King of England, and Britain might well have made a second decision to become a republic. Carlyle himself was by way of being a republican, certainly one deeply read in the era of the First Republic in the 17th century, and a hero-worshipping biographer of Oliver Cromwell. Carlyle was a sardonic and amusing man, whose stock in trade was a refusal to be impressed by the English, who to his Scottish soul were ever alien, by the establishment, which he found laughable, by the class hierarchy, very near the bottom of which he had been born. His hero was the German poet Goethe, and Carlyle sought in the confused state of modern England, with its great social injustices, its teeming poor, its disease-ridden industrial cities, its Philistinism, some means of returning with that poet a positive attitude to life, an everlasting yea. Carlyle on that breezy April day was passed by a carriage, the Queen taking, as he said in his Scottish way, her bit departure for Windsor. I had seen her another day at Hyde Park Corner, coming in from the daily ride. She is decidedly a pretty-looking little creature. Health, clearness, graceful timidity, looking out from her young face. One could not help some interest in her, situated as mortal seldom was. Carlyle, who went on to write one of the most magisterial royal biographies in the literature of the world, The Life of Frederick the Great, was peculiarly well placed to see the strangeness of Victoria's position as she swept past him in the carriage. They would not meet until years later, when, both widowed and old, they exchanged small talk at the deanery of Westminster Abbey. She was indeed situated as mortal seldom was. This makes her story of abiding fascination. Her father and mother might so easily not have had a child at all. Once born, Victoria's often solitary childhood was the oddest of preparations for what she was to become, not merely the mother of 9 and the grandmother of 42 children, but the matriarch of royal Europe. She was either the actual ancestor of, or she was connected by marriage to, nearly all the great dynasties of Europe, and in almost each of those crowned or coroneted figureheads there was bound up a political story. Her destiny was thus interwoven with that of millions of peoples, not just in Europe, but in the ever-expanding empire which Britain was becoming throughout the 19th century. One day to be named the Empress of India, the pretty-looking little creature had a face which would adorn postage stamps, banners, statues, and busts all over the known world. And this came about, as the Germanophile Thomas Carlyle would have been the first to recognize, because of the combination of 2 peculiar factors. First, that Victoria was born at the very moment of the expansion of British political and commercial power throughout the world, and secondly, that she was born from that stock of nearly